You wake with a start, heart pounding, the dread familiar. That same corridor, the same faceless pursuer, it's a broken record in your brain. But these recurring nightmares aren't random glitches, they're messages from a mind trying to heal. Recurring nightmares are vivid, frightening dreams that repeat with similar themes over weeks, months, or even years. Unlike isolated nightmares triggered by a single event, these are persistent and puzzling. Epidemiological studies show that 5 to 8% of the general population experiences frequent nightmares, with a significant subset reporting recurring content. This phenomenon is even more common among individuals with post-traumatic stress disorder, where trauma-related nightmares can replay with near-identical fidelity for decades. Historically, dreams were dismissed as meaningless neural noise, but modern neuroscience has reframed them as a functional process. The threat simulation theory, proposed by Finnish cognitive neuroscientist Antti Revonsuo, suggests that dreaming evolved as a biological defense mechanism, a virtual reality training ground where the brain rehearses responses to threats in a safe environment. In this framework, recurring nightmares represent a failure to complete that rehearsal. The brain keeps running the simulation because it hasn't found a satisfactory resolution. Brain imaging studies reveal that during nightmares, the limbic system, particularly the amygdala and anterior cingulate cortex, is hyperactive. These regions govern fear, threat detection, and emotional memory. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic and reasoning, shows reduced activity. This neurochemical imbalance explains why dreams feel so terrifyingly real. The fear centers are fully online, but the rational brakes are off. Research by Nielsen and Levin introduced the neurocognitive model of nightmares, which suggests that recurring nightmares arise from a dysfunction in the affective network. When emotional distress is not adequately processed during waking hours, it leaks into sleep, and the brain attempts to integrate these unresolved feelings into dream narratives. If the emotional charge is too high, the dream loops. Unable to resolve the threat, it reruns the scenario. This is why trauma survivors often report dreams that are almost exact replays of the original event. The brain has not yet filed the memory as safely processed. The most robust evidence for recurring nightmares comes from PTSD research. A landmark study by Krakow and colleagues found that 80% of female sexual assault survivors with PTSD reported recurrent nightmares, often containing direct or symbolic references to the assault. Interestingly, even non-trauma-related recurring nightmares share structural similarities. Themes of being chased, falling, drowning, or being trapped. These are universal threat scenarios that tap into primal survival circuits. Another compelling line of research focuses on dream incubation in laboratory settings. When researchers expose participants to emotionally charged films before sleep, they are more likely to incorporate elements into their dreams. If the emotional content is unresolved, such as a moral dilemma or a social conflict, the same theme may reappear across multiple sleep cycles. This suggests that the brain uses sleep to tag and rehearse unresolved problems, and if no solution emerges, the dream repeats. REM sleep, the stage where most vivid dreaming occurs, is critical for memory consolidation. During REM, the brain replays recent experiences, strengthening important neural connections and weakening irrelevant ones. But this process is not neutral. It is emotionally selective. Research by Walker and Vanderhelm demonstrated that REM sleep preferentially processes negative emotional memories, reducing their effective charge overnight. However, when stress levels are chronically high, this overnight therapy fails. Instead of dampening the emotional response, the brain may amplify it, locking the dream into a repetitive loop. This phenomenon is known as failed emotional regulation. The brain attempts to integrate the threatening memory, but the memory is too potent, so it keeps trying, night after night. The recurring nightmare is, paradoxically, a sign that the brain is working hard to heal, but it has gotten stuck in a maladaptive pattern. The most empirically supported treatment for recurring nightmares is image rehearsal therapy, or IRT. Developed by Barry Krakow and colleagues, IRT involves patients recalling their nightmare and then rewriting the ending, changing the narrative to something neutral or positive. The patient then mentally rehearses this new version during the day. A randomized controlled trial by Krakow and colleagues found that IRT reduced nightmare frequency and intensity significantly, with effects lasting for months. The therapy works by disrupting the maladaptive pattern, It teaches the brain a new script, effectively reprogramming the threat simulation. For those who suffer from recurring nightmares, this offers a path out of the loop. The key is that the brain is plastic, capable of change. By consciously altering the dream narrative, you can retrain your emotional response, turning a source of terror into a story of resilience. So, what is your recurring nightmare trying to tell you? It might be a signal of unresolved conflict, a fear you haven't faced, or a memory that needs integration. The specific imagery, being chased, falling, losing teeth, often symbolizes deeper anxieties. For example, dreams of falling may reflect a loss of control, while being chased could represent avoidance of a pressing issue. Understanding the metaphor can be the first step toward breaking the cycle. Journaling about the dream, identifying waking life stressors, and practicing relaxation techniques before bed can help. But perhaps the most profound insight is this: the nightmare is not your enemy. It is a part of your mind that is trying to protect you, to rehearse survival. By listening to its message, you can transform it from a source of dread into a guide for growth. If this exploration of your mind's nighttime workings sparked curiosity, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit. The Thought Lab is here to illuminate the hidden corners of psychology.